Hack the planet! Hack the planet!
We're in.
Shall we play a game?
How about global thermonuclear war?
Hey there, HackerFrogs, it's me, the Shy Hat, and we're doing HackerFrogs AfterSchool today. We're doing HackerFrogs free hacking. We're hacking all the things. So let's talk about what we're going to be covering in today's stream. We've got a regular schedule over here, and if you are on the Reddit, you can look at it over here. Otherwise, we have a Discord server as well, and we usually post our schedules up to there as well. So let's talk about what we're going to be covering in today's stream. So today is Monday, it's Linux Monday, and it is December 8th. Hope everybody is getting to the holiday spirit. And let's see, Abel443 says, I worked for 6 months, I just didn't feel right, was overwhelmed, wasn't ready for corporate, need to study more, so resigned. No worries, no worries. I felt a little bit similar in one of my previous roles in cybersecurity. I felt like there was a lot of stuff that I needed to learn, and so I decided to do that. And then I figured that I wanted to do teaching instead of security testing. So here I am studying, well, here I am teaching cybersecurity stuff. But best of luck to you, Abel443, in your future endeavors. Let's see, Serpentor says, happy holidays, Bronx here. Bronx is in New York. Anyways, welcome to the stream, Serpentor, thank you. All right, so what are we covering today's stream? So today we're going to be doing TryHackMe Advent of Cyber, days 6, 7, and 8. There's a event that goes on for 24 days over at tryhackme.com, and we're going to be covering some of those challenges. So after that, we're going to be doing HackerFrogs AfterSchool. We're going to be talking about password cracking in network hacking session number 5. After that, we're going to be doing CmdChallenge. This is a challenge where we need to use our Linux skills to overcome some little puzzles. So that's it's going to be a lot of fun. Santer09, thank you very much for coming by. Hello to you too. And the last thing we're going to cover is we're going to cover a challenge from Dockerlabs.es, and this is called Gitea. So we're probably going to deal with some Git stuff. So Git hacking, all sorts of fun. So without further ado, we should start into our first topic, which is going to be 60 minutes of Advent of Cyber. We might go a little bit over, hopefully not. And let's get that set up. So 60 minutes on the clock. Let's start the timer. And let's go ahead and do TryHackMe Advent of Cyber day number 6. Santa asks, when are we taking a jab at AOC quest number 1? You mean side quest number 1? I can't cover side quest material on live stream. It goes against the terms of service for covering TryHackMe materials. Slevers, hello, nice to see you. I haven't seen you in a while, that's true. But welcome to the stream. Okay, let's go ahead and start into this TryHackMe Advent of Cyber room. Hey everybody, this is a guided walkthrough for TryHackMe Advent of Cyber day number 6 over at tryhackme.com as part of their Advent of Cyber event. So this room is called Malware Analysis Executable. And today, what are we going to be doing? Let's take a look. Donamine, hello, nice to see you here. And Sliver says, how have you been? Oh, I'm here and I'm teaching cybersecurity stuff. I'm covering cybersecurity stuff. It's all sorts of cyber all over here. And yeah, it's going to be a busy December. All right, so after you join the room, we want to go down to our introduction, task number 1, and we're going to read off what's going on in the story. So the town of Wareville remains quiet in the middle of the night, while the residents of Wareville are nicely tucked up in bed, blissfully unaware. The SOC team at the Best Festival Company, TBFC, remain alert, poised, and ready for whatever may face them. Monitoring their screens, armed with a freshly poured mug of hot cocoa, the elves at the SOC watch their dashboards diligently. Suddenly, the elves received an email in unison from Elf McClaws, head of Elf Affairs, in their inboxes. It reads, from Elf McClaws, subject, a new schedule awaits. Attachments, hophelper.exe. To all elves, going forward, we will be using a new program for creating and viewing team rotas. This new program will revolutionize how rotas are made here at the Best Festival Company. Please contact IT support if you need help if you have issues running the program. Kind regards, remain the best, Elf McClaws, head of Elf Affairs. Why is Elf McClaws working at 3 a.m., screams a member of the SOC team in the background. They're right, something is amiss. Elf McBlue is immediately suspicious. Their years of experience in the SOC have given them the wisdom not to download out of the blue executables. Without McSkitty's wisdom, Elf McBlue takes charge, loading up their malware investigation toolkit. The investigation begins. Okay, so what are our learning objectives for today's room? Today's room will have you taking the place of Elf McBlue, a highly talented member of the Best Festival Company's Malware Investigation Squad. You've been tasked with investigating a highly suspicious executable that is being shared within the company. In today's room, we will cover the following. The principles of malware analysis, an introduction to sandboxes, static versus dynamic analysis, and tools of the trade, PE Studio, Procmon, and Redshot. So what do we need to do today? So do we need to start a VM today? Yes. Is there split screen available? Yes. And are we given credentials to connect directly to the VM via RDP, VNC, or SSH? Yes. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to set up our virtual environment. Just go down to this green button over here under Set Up Your Virtual Environment and click it to start up the machine. So the machine is going to take a couple of minutes to start up, but in the meantime, what we can do is we can read up on what's going on today. Okay, so just click on the answer, I have access to my sandbox environment, check. Okay, and then we'll go over to task number 2. So we're talking about the principles of malware analysis. Let's talk a little bit about this. Malware analysis is the process of examining a malicious file to understand its functionality, operation, and methods for defense against it. By analyzing a malicious file or application, we can see exactly how it operates and therefore how to prevent it. For example, could the malicious file communicate with an attacker's server? We can block that server. Could the malicious file leave traces on the machine? We can use these to determine if the malware has ever infected another device. Instead of fearing malware, we can take a proactive approach by translating technical findings into practical defense measures and understanding how the malware fits into an attacker's techniques. There are 2 main branches of malware analysis. There's static and dynamic. Static analysis focuses on inspecting a file without executing it, whereas dynamic analysis involves execution. We will come to these shortly. Okay, so Abel443 has a question. So last year, this month, I passed my OSCP and I'm looking to take a 300 level cert from OffSec. I'm no good at coding. What would you recommend? Taking the OSWE or taking the OSEP? Which one would be more easy? I'm confused a lot. Okay. And yeah, okay, let's answer that question really quickly. So let me look up these 2. So if you've passed your OSCP, I'm guessing that you have a good stable grounding in cybersecurity techniques, especially for pen testing. So OffSec is OSWE and OSEP. So the WE is web app stuff. Okay, so let's see. OSWE is web attacks and hacking. Okay. So OSWE, I don't know if I would go for if you're doing web attacks and stuff. I would recommend doing the Portswigger certification instead. But the other certification you're asking about is the OSEP. So OffSec OSEP, and OSEP is evasion techniques and breaching defenses. Okay, so this is more of a doing client-side attacks, bypassing whitelisting, and performing advanced Active Directory attacks. So, yeah, as far as which one you should go for, I mean, I'm always of the mind that a person who does pen testing should be good at doing web app stuff. And if you do the stuff from Portswigger, it's going to be a lot less expensive than doing the stuff from OffSec. So the Portswigger professional certification. Let's see. Let me see if I can find it. Portswigger Burp Suite Certified Professional. Yeah, this one, Certified Practitioner. So if you get this particular certification, you'll be more than qualified to do any web app pen testing job. And let's see. Don Amin asks, "What's the best country do you think is what country do you think is the best at teaching cybersecurity?" Which country is the best at teaching cybersecurity? I'm not really too sure about that. My default is to go to someplace like America for teaching cybersecurity, because there's a lot of really big cybersecurity companies in America. But the other option would be like Europe, someplace in Europe. That's not exactly a country, but countries like England, the UK, they have some really large cybersecurity companies as well. So basically, whichever country has the really big cybersecurity companies, those are probably going to be the ones that are best at teaching cybersecurity. That's just my opinion, though. Okay, let's go back to the room. So we're also talking about sandboxes. In cybersecurity, sandboxes are used to execute potentially dangerous code. Think of this as disposable digital playpens. So these sandboxes are safe, isolated environments where potentially malicious applications can perform their actions without risking sensitive data or impacting other systems. The use of sandboxes is part of the golden rule in malware analysis. Never run dangerous applications on devices that you care about. Most of the time, sandboxes present themselves as virtual machines. Virtual machines are a popular choice for sandboxing because you can control how the system operates and benefit from features such as snapshotting, which allows you to create and restore the machine to various stages of its status. Okay, so Abel says, I guess you made a point there. For web app training, there are other certs that might be in competition, so I guess the answer is to go for OSEP. I mean, if you want to get further into doing Active Directory attacks and bypassing defenses for Active Directory, I think it would be a good course. Of course, I'm always a bit concerned about the price because I don't know if I would pay like close to $1,800 for a certification like that, but that's just my personal opinion. Okay, and Gonzalo Nicholas, hello, nice to see you. Hello, everybody. Oh, from Argentina. Hello, nice to see you here. Welcome in. Okay, let's continue. To reiterate, it is imperative to understand that potentially malicious code and applications should only be run in a safe, isolated environment. From now on, this room will refer to malicious code and applications as samples. With these fundamentals covered, let's move on to the practical section of today's room. The following will demonstrate a sample. You must apply these techniques to the hophelper.exe file presented to you within the hophelper folder on the desktop of the practical VM. Okay, so the first thing we're going to be talking about is we're going to be talking about interactive static analysis. I mean, yeah, interactive. I guess static analysis doesn't really go with interactive. Anyways, as we alluded to previously in this room, we will use static analysis to gather information about a sample without executing it and digging deep. Static analysis can be a quick and effective way to understand how the sample may operate, as well as how it can be identified. Some of the information can be gathered from static analysis have been included in the table below. Okay, so we've got checksums. So checksums are information used within cybersecurity to track and catalog files and executables. Basically, checksums are kind of like digital fingerprints, so that we know that we're dealing with the same file, the same characteristics. Okay, so checksums, they're also strings. Strings are sequences of readable characters within an executable. This could be, for example, an IP address, URLs, commands, or even passwords. So an example of a string could be an IP address over here. Okay, so Hamuz says, how did you learn hacking? I learned hacking from a lot of different sources, but most of the sources are on YouTube. And I also did a lot of modules. Well, I also hacked a lot of virtual machines from different platforms. So stuff like TryHackMe, Hack the Box, and other resources. Hanky Lodwig says, "Hello YouTube. Good morning from UTC +7." Hello Hanky, nice to see you here. Okay, so the next thing is imports. So imports are a list of libraries and functions the application depends on. For example, rather than building everything from scratch, applications will use operating system functions and libraries to interact with the OS. These are useful, especially in Windows, as they allow you to see how the application interacts with the system. So for example, we've got this import right here. This library is used to create a file on the Windows system. Create file W, okay? And we've got resources. Resources contain data such as the icon that is displayed to the user. This is useful to examine, especially since malware might use a Word document icon to trick the user. Additionally, malware itself has been known to hide in this section. So let us continue. Okay, and Hamuz asks, because I only learned Kali hacking, it already broke my head. Well, I mean, Kali is a tool, and you can certainly use Kali Linux to learn about cybersecurity, but I don't know. It's just a vehicle for learning about cybersecurity. But yeah, let me know what you've been studying lately, and maybe I can give you some recommendations. Okay, so however, it's important to note that regardless of how a sample may appear or function, we don't truly know until it's executed. Attackers use techniques such as obfuscation to obscure how a sample appears, primarily to evade antiviruses, but also... Oh, why was it terminated? Okay, so I need to restart my machine. Just a second, everybody. Go back to here and start machine. I guess this might be because I didn't really interact with the virtual machine after it started up, so they shut it down. Abel, thank you very much for super chatting 100 INR. INR, I think that's Indonesian currency, but thank you very much for the super chat. Thank you very much, Abel. Okay, let's go back to where we were, and hopefully we can finish the materials over here. Okay, Hamu says, base like scanning ports, who am I, and changing directory. Yeah, I mean, we will cover a lot of different stuff on Linux for hacking. Okay, so demonstrating PE Studio. This section of the room will demonstrate using PE Studio on an example called downloader.exe. Please note that the information you will see from this demonstration sample, the sample you will be analyzing will be different, but the techniques will still apply. So please note that it is imperative you do not launch the hophelper.exe executable yet. So first we will use PE Studio to gather information about the executable. Okay, so launch PE Studio, load the executable into PE Studio, click on the Indicators tab in the dropdown, and look for the SHA-256 sum. Okay, so we can do that over here on our virtual machine. So the stuff that we're dealing with in today's task is we're dealing with Windows stuff. Usually we deal with Linux environments, but today we're dealing with Windows. So what you want to do is you want to go to the bottom of the screen so that we can look at this desktop view in full screen. So go to the center here and then go down. There's a button that's labeled View in Full Screen. You want to click on that. Okay, Santa says, it tends to do that. I had to restart it like 3 times yesterday. Even if you're in the middle of running code, the machine will freeze. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Okay, so let's go ahead and start up PE Studio. So PE Studio, wow, why is the resolution so bad? Anyways, we'll start a PE Studio, click on the icon shortcut, and then we can open up our file. So the file we want to open up is, just click on File, then click on Open File, and then you want to click on Desktop, and then you want to click on the Hop Helper directory here. So inside of the Hop Helper directory, there is this executable right here called hophelper.exe. Select that and then click Open. Okay, and what we want to get from here is we want to get the SHA-256 sum from the program. So what we can do is right here, immediately after we open up the program, there's going to be this value right here. So we can click on it, and then we can right click, and then select copy line. So we're going to copy that line, and then we're going to go to our terminal. We're going to paste in the line, and then we're going to need to copy just the SHA-256 string. So the reason why we do have to do it like this is because the copying is a little bit finicky. It's probably the best that you do it this way. So we're going to need to use this SHA-256 string right here to answer one of the questions. So let's go ahead and answer that question. Okay, so let's see. Hanky says, are you doing the side quest? Oh no, we're not going to be doing the side quest. We can't cover side quest material on live stream or on YouTube videos. Not until the end of the event. So unfortunately, I can't cover that. Okay, let's go back. We'll go back to the TryHackMe room, and we will exit the split view. And then we will go down to the questions here. Static analysis, what is the SHA-256 sum of hophelper.exe? We'll just paste in our answer here, and we'll click on check. Okay, and then we'll go back up to where we were. Okay, so what's next? So next we will proceed with reviewing the strings of the executable. You can do this by clicking on the strings indicator on the left pane of PE Studio. Okay, so PE Studio, over here, we can click on strings. We'll go down, and then there's this one section here. Click on that. Okay, Henke says, I was just asking if you're doing it. I know it's, there's a rule for no hints. Yeah, there's a big rule for no hints for these challenges here. No worries, no worries. Okay, so let's go on. And what do they want us to do? So in the context of malware analysis, strings are the sequences of readable characters present within an executable. This could be, for example, IP addresses, URLs, commands, or even passwords. As a malware analyst, it's great to have a look at these, as they could reveal the attacker's command infrastructure, which we could use for our defenses. So now proceed to review the strings on the sample hophelper.exe provided to you on the analyst machine to answer question number 2. Okay, so we can go ahead and go to our strings over here. Hamu says, you're a very cool guy because you're doing free classes for cybersecurity and taking up your free time. No worries, no worries. I'm here to provide a service. I'm trying to help people get into cybersecurity as best I can. And I'm trying to understand cybersecurity better by teaching it to people. Okay, so we could look through this stuff all day. But what we want to do is we want to look up a flag. So if we know that all of the flags in TryHackMe start with, so if we know that all the flags in TryHackMe start with the letters THM, we should probably go into the machine and then sort by value. And sorting by value is going to get us the alphabetical order of these strings. So we'll go over to the letter T to look for the flag. So T. So THM. Okay, so this is the flag over here. So it's called THM strings found. So we can click on it, then we can right click and then copy the line. So we'll copy the line, then we'll go over to here and we'll just copy the flag, and then we will go over to the TryHackMe room. We need to go down to the bottom and answer the question. So the question for number 2 is static analysis within the strings of hophelper.exe. A flag with the format THM something something exists. What is the flag value? Okay, and then we will finish that one, and then we'll move on to the next section. Okay, Abel443 says, I guess copy value would only copy the flag, not sure. So I was working with this yesterday, and if you select copy value, oh, that works. Huh. I was, yeah, for some reason, I found it wasn't working yesterday. Well, for the SHA-256 string in particular, it didn't work, but I guess it works here. So that's a little bit confusing. Okay, let's do the next section. All right, so the next section we're dealing with a different program. Okay, so we're doing interactive dynamic analysis. So this section of the room provides a brief introduction to dynamic analysis. As you recall, dynamic analysis involves executing the malicious sample to identify its behaviors and how it interacts with the operating system. So we're going to be using this program right here called RedShot. RedShot is a widely used utility, especially when analyzing malware on Windows. It works by creating 2 snapshots of the registry, one before the malware is run and another afterwards. The results are then compared to identify any changes. Malware aims to establish persistence, meaning it seeks to run as soon as the device is switched on. A common technique for malware is to add a run key registry, which is frequently used to specify which applications are automatically executed when the device is powered on. Okay, so it says here, before executing the malicious sample, hophelper.exe, let's create a snapshot of our registry as it currently is so that we can compare the difference once the sample has been executed. Okay, so let's load up RedShot and create a capture of the registry as it currently exists. The shortcut to this has been placed on the desktop of the analyst machine. First, change the output directory of the capture to the user's desktop using the box with the 3 dots in the output path section. Then, once set, we can create our snapshot. Press first shot and then shot on the dropdown. Please note that this may take a few minutes to complete. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. Okay, DieDev says, maybe it was me, but it seemed kind of hard to find the registry path in the text file for this problem. The registry path? Oh yeah, it was kind of difficult. Yeah, that's true. That's true. We'll talk about it in just a little bit. Okay, so here we're done with PE Studio, so we can close it. And then we'll start up the RedShot program over here. Okay, so yes. And we need to change the output path to the desktop. That's what they wanted us to do. So desktop, okay. And then click on first shot. So this is going to take a snapshot of the registry as it is right now. Okay, shot. So this is going to take a little bit of time to complete, and then we can do the second shot after we run the malware binary. I wonder how long this is going to take. But in the meantime, we can get the other thing ready by opening up HopHelper. So the HopHelper folder over here, I hope RedShot didn't just crash. So the thing about these Windows machines is that the Windows machines are not provisioned with a lot of resources, and that means that they're going to be a little bit slow. But yeah, so it looks like the first snapshot is completed. So the thing we need to do next is we need to run the hop helper malware program. So we run hop helper, and when hop helper runs, you're going to notice some weird things happen. So we see here that hop helper is running, and then it changes all of the desktop icons to these little Easter egg things. Okay, so after we run the hop helper program, it says here, King Malhair sends his regards. So we've obviously got some malware running on our system. Okay, so what we're going to do next is go back to Redshot, and we're going to create the second snapshot of the registry to see how the malware has changed it. Okay, and we'll just wait for this to complete. And I think it should be done. Just need to wait for the program to come back to us. But in the meantime, we can talk about what the rest of this task wants us to do. Okay, now that we've taken a snapshot of the registry, we should proceed with executing hop helper. Okay, we just did that. And once we have executed our sample, let's return to Redshot and compare our second snapshot using the same procedure as before. Okay, we've already done this. Now, after a few seconds, let's press the compare button that appears. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. So click on compare. This is going to take a few seconds to finish. Okay, we can search for the executable within the log that opens up. So before we move on, I'm just going to make sure that we're getting the information for the next question we need to answer rather. Okay, so which registry value has the hophelper.exe modified for persistence? Provide the full path of the key that has been modified. So provide the full path for the key that's been modified. Okay, registry value, which one has been modified? Let's go over to the machine, and we see over here, keys added, HKU, and this really long string over here. So I wonder if this is the answer for our question, but there's a bunch of other stuff that's been modified as well. If we take a look at here, we see that there are keys added between the two snapshots and values deleted over here, and values added over here as well. Okay, so I think what we're looking for is the run value over here. So it runs hophelper.exe. So let's just copy this one here, and then we'll provide this as the answer. Okay, paste that in, check. That was the correct answer. So Sandra says, this challenge they're very helpful, and I can finally implement static analysis at work and look like a wizard with PEstudio and Procmon. Well, I mean, it's good to be able to use these tools, and they'll definitely come in handy if you ever decide to go into malware analysis, or what is it called? It's called digital forensics. So if you decide to go into digital forensics and become a digital forensics analyst. Okay, let's go back. So we're going to be using another program now, and we're going to be using a program called Procmon. So next we will explore using Procmon, or Process Monitor, from the sysinternal suite to investigate today's sample. Process Monitor is used to monitor and investigate how processes are interacting with the Windows operating system. It is a powerful tool that allows us to see exactly what a process is doing. For example, reading and writing registry keys, searching for files, or creating network connections. So open Process Monitor, Procmon. The shortcut has been placed in the desktop of the analyst machine. Process Monitor will automatically start capturing events of various processes on the system. Okay, so now execute the sample hop helper again and return to the Process Monitor to see how it interacts with the operating system. Okay, so let's see. BZZZD says, why did you look for the run hop helper exactly? So it was mentioned in the task materials here. It was talking about persistence. So malware aims to establish persistence. The common technique is to add the run key to the registry, and that's what we found inside of the comparison. And that's why that was the answer for the question. Okay, so procmon over here, let's go ahead and run that. So we don't need this anymore. We can close it. We can also close Redshot. And then we can run procmon. So procmon is this over here. Okay. And now we're running procmon. What they want us to do is they want us to run the hop helper program again. So let's go ahead and do that. So run hop helper. Okay, and we get this message again. King Malhare sends his regards. Click OK, and after we do that, we can stop procmon. So we can click on this over here. Capture paused. Okay, so after the capture is paused, let's go ahead and go back. And DieDev asks, I could just use get file hash to get the SHA-256 with PowerShell, even without touching the static analysis application that THM wants us to use. I mean, it's true that you can get the SHA-256 hash without. Well, I mean, you can get the SHA-256 hash for a file a number of different ways, but they want us to use the PStudio application because it's often used in malware analysis. Well, I mean, the fact that they didn't teach us how to use other functions, well, they did kind of teach us how to use the strings function as well. But yeah, it's just one of many things that you can do with that program. Okay, so let's see. Execute the sample hop helper again, return to the process monitor to see how it interacts with the operating program. We will see a lot of information here. Do not worry. We will come on to how to filter this shortly. So after allowing a minute to pass, ensure that the sample is fully executed. We will now stop capturing. To stop capturing more events, click on the play button in the toolbar of the process monitor. Okay, we did that. As you can see, there's a lot of information to scroll through here, with most recent events near the bottom. So you can see how various system processes are interacting with Windows. Nearly all of it we don't care about. So if we go over here, far from it for me to explain what exactly is going on. There's a lot of different operations that are being done between the different processes that are running on the system. So we've got a lot of PowerShell stuff going on. We've got a lot of Explorer.exe and all the other programs that are usually running on Windows systems. They're doing a bunch of different operations, and the thing is that if we try to take in all of this information all at once without properly filtering out that information, it's going to be very, very difficult. So this is what we're going to do. Okay, let's apply some filters. After all, for this demonstration, we only care about the sample. So to do so, click on the filter button and then filter within the dropdown. So we're going to create a filter to filter out all of the events. So a new window will open, and then we can put in our matching filter conditions over here. So here we can create some filters to remove some of the noise that we don't care about. Because we only want to look at our program over here for the demonstration, we can apply a filter like so. Apply the process name filter, set the condition to is, put in the name of the process we want to see within the text area, press the Add button to apply this filter, and then click OK to save. So we can do this in our machine here by clicking on Filter, and then click on the Filter button. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set process name is hophelper.exe. Then include, and then we click on add. Thank you very much for following on Twitch. Mr. Moist3K, hello, nice to see you here. Comrade Soul, hello, nice to see you here. And DieDev says, if they wanted to show us the power of static analysis, then they didn't do a great job of it. Strings is also a common Unix utility that could be used to find strings in an executable. Well, I mean, yeah, strings is a very common Unix utility, and there are a bunch of different command line options we could use to get strings in Windows as well. But I think what they wanted to do is they wanted to show us some GUI tools, because everything that they are presenting in this demonstration here is a GUI tool. So stuff like procmon and stuff like PE, what was it called again? Okay, so stuff like procmon, stuff like Redshot, these are all GUI tools. So what they wanted to showcase a bunch of different GUI tools. Redshot, right, Redshot. Okay, so yeah, so process is hophelper.exe. We click on add, and then we click on apply. Okay, so after that, we can see in here that only process name hophelper.exe appears in the list, and we see all of the different stuff that's being done in here. Okay, let's move on. So once done, return to the main process monitor window, and we can see that the filter has worked. So we only get the stuff from the process that we want. Now it is much easier to investigate how the process is interacting with the operating system. Here are some operations that may be of interest to us. We've got reg open key, create file, TCP connect, and TCP receive. However, as you can see, there's still a lot of information. We can further apply filters to look for specific things that we want to investigate, such as these aforementioned operations. So to do so, we're going to return to the filter header and then create the filter that we want to apply. For example, we can filter by operations, and let's do so below, filtering for any TCP operation. Okay, so TCP operations, we can filter for those by doing this. We go over to filter, click on filter, then we do operation. So click on operation. Operation begins with TCP. So just type it in, TCP, and then click on add. So operation begins with TCP, and then we apply that filter. And then we press OK. So we see that there are only four operations here. So TCP connect, TCP send, TCP receive, and TCP disconnect. So we've got we have a much more narrow list of events to look at now. Okay, well done. This concludes the demonstration for today's room. Remember, you will need to apply to what you've learned here on the hophelper.exe executable that has been placed in the hophelper folder. Okay, so I think we've got one more question to answer here. So filter the output of the procmon for TCP operations. What network protocol is hophelper.exe using to communicate? Okay, make sure that you have executed this. Okay, so we're looking for a network protocol. We'll go over here and we can click on any one of these. Hold on. Okay, so we see that all of these operations here, they use the path that includes HTTP. So HTTP is a networking protocol, so this is probably the answer they're looking for. So we can go over here and we can just type in HTTP. Okay, so bonus, can you find the web panel that hophelper.exe is communicating with? Well, I was actually not able to complete this portion of the. I was not able to complete this answer, but if any of you know how to answer this question, let us know in the comments, or let us know in let us know in the comments, and I would be happy to learn from you. All right, so the last thing we need to do is we need to click on the check, and we need to click on this last check, and then we're finished the room. Okay, everybody, this was a guided walkthrough for day number 6 from the Advent of Cyber event for 2025 over at TryHackMe.com. The room was called Malware Analysis Executable, and if you enjoyed this guided walkthrough, please click on the like and subscribe buttons on the video and leave a comment underneath the video. But until next time, HackerFrogs out. Okay, we're not leaving, everybody, but we're going to be doing a couple of more of these rooms. So let me terminate this machine. Okay, so DieDev asks, do you think the URL contains breach blocker? Do you think the URL contains breach blocker? Maybe. Maybe. I think, I mean, we can go take a look at it real quick. But then I need to start up the machine again. I don't know if I've got time for that. But anyways, let's move on to the next room. So the next room is it a little bit, it's a little bit easier. So this is day number 7. Which one was this? This one was, oh, network discovery. Yeah, this is much more my speed. So this is dealing with networking services. Wadgiver asks, what is Advent of Cyber? So Advent of Cyber is a free event over at TryHackMe.com. And they've got a bunch of, by doing the challenges inside of the rooms, you can win a bunch of tickets. And the tickets are used for a big giveaway, and the giveaway has all sorts of great prizes and stuff. So, for example, we've got, well, I mean, I'm not really in this for the prizes, but for people who are interested in the giveaway, they've got stuff like iPhone 17s, they've got MacBooks, they've got keyboards, they've got all sorts of fun hacker tools and stuff, and a lot of digital subscriptions as well. So yeah, it's a fun event, and it lets you learn about a lot of different aspects of cybersecurity, all in about 3 weeks or so. Okay, let's move on to the next room. All right, everybody, this is a guided walkthrough for day number 7 from the Advent of Cyber event over at TryHackMe.com for the year 2025. So this room is called Network Discovery Santa Claus. All right, so the first thing we need to do when we get into this room is we need to join the room, and then after we join the room, we need to go down to task number 1. So there's a storyline going on here, and let me go ahead and read that out. Christmas preparations are delayed. HopSec has breached our QA environment and locked us out. Without it, the TBFC projects can't be tested, and the entire SOCMIS pipeline is frozen. To make things worse, the server is slowly transforming into a twisted EastMist node. Can you uncover HopSec's trail, find a way back into TBFC devqa01 and restore the server back before the bunny's takeover is complete? For this task, you'll need to check every place to hide, every open port that bunny's left unprotected. Good luck. Okay, so for our learning objectives for this day, we've got learn the basics of network service discovery with Nmap, learn core network protocols and concepts along the way, and apply your knowledge to find a way back into the server. So connecting to the machine, what do we need to do today? We need to start up the attack box today, yes. And we also need to start a VM today, yes. Okay, and let's get back to the chat. So BZZD says, which do you recommend, THM or HDB? I'm looking to start into network basics and then hacking. So I would warn against using Hack the Box if you're really new to cybersecurity, because Hack the Box, there's a lot, it's not very beginner friendly. So I would say that platforms like TryHackMe are a lot more beginner friendly. And I would recommend, even more than TryHackMe, I would recommend PicoCTF. So PicoCTF, let me get you a link. So picoctf.org. What I would do over there is I would look up some easy challenges there. And the other thing you could do is you could follow along with my playlist. So I've got a playlist for PicoCTF on my YouTube channel. Okay, if you want to get into networking basics, it might be worth getting into Network Plus or CCNA. So BZZD, yeah, let me give you the starter pack. So the starter pack here is a bunch of different YouTube playlists. There are some for IT basics, there's some for computer networking, and there's some for easy CTF exercises. So CTF exercises are basically little training modules that you can use to learn about different skills. Okay, let's get back. Okay, the machine will need about 2 minutes to boot. Okay, so this is what we do. So we're going to go in here. So we're going to start up the attack box, and we're going to start our machine as well. So click on the green Start Machine button, and then click on the Start Attack Box button over here. So the attack box is going to take about 2 minutes to initialize, but in the meantime, what we can do is we can read up about what we're supposed to be learning today. So here, answer the question below. I've successfully launched the target machine in the attack box. Click on the check, and we're done that. And then we go to task number 2. Discovering exposed services. Although we lost access to the QA server, at least it's still active, and we know its IP address. That's good news, since now we can counterattack and hopefully find our way back in. Ensure that you understand basic networking concepts like networking ports, and let's plan the engagement. So know your target. In this case, it's this server right here with this IP address. We'll get the IP address in just a little bit. Scan the IP for open ports, especially common ones like 22 for SSH and 80 for HTTP. Number 3, explore what's behind the open ports. Maybe it's a vulnerable web server running on port 80. And number 4, hack the exposed service and find a way in, and kick out the bad bunnies from the QA server. So along the practical of today's task, you will find 3 keys. Keep note of them since you'll be needing them later on for the web app. The format will be this: key name, key. Okay, so we're going to be doing a simple port scan. There are many tools that you can use to scan for open ports, from pre-installed Netcat on Linux and PowerShell on Windows, to specialized powerful tools like Nmap and Nabu. Let's use Nmap for this task and perform a basic scan from the attack box or your own VPN-connected attacking machine. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to be scanning the machine to understand what ports and services are being offered on that server. So we've got our attack box here. It's powered up. So just click into the terminal, hit enter, and then we're going to open up another terminal. So there are terminal shortcuts here, here, and here. Just choose one of them and click on it. Doesn't seem like a Star Wars reference. Could it be? I'm not sure. Okay, so the IP address that we're going to be scanning in this case is going to be this one right here. So IP address. So for us, it's going to be this IP address. It's going to be different for everybody. We're going to type in nmap, and we're going to scan all the ports by specifying -p-. We're going to get very verbose output. We're going to run it very fast, and we're going to try to get versioning information for any service that we find. And we're going to provide this scan to this IP address. So I'm just going to plug that in, 176.21. Okay, so when we give this command, we're scanning the remote server, and we're trying to find out which ports are open, and if those ports are open, what service is being run behind those ports. So we see that there is port 22 and port 80 open on the system, and that usually points towards common networking services like SSH that is used to log in, and port 80, which is a unencrypted web page. Okay, we'll just wait for the rest of this to come back, but in the meantime, we can talk about what else is supposed to be going on over here. Okay, so scanning the whole range. So usually when we scan with Nmap, unless we specify something specific, it's only going to scan the top 100 ports, but we can scan every single port by using this argument right here. And they also recommend us using script equals banner to see what's likely behind the port. Okay, so we're just going to skip past this part, and we're just going to wait for the scan to come back. It might take a little bit of time. but they actually tell us what kind of services are being run on the machine. So it looks like you found a running FTP server and some custom TBFC application. So we can see here that there are a couple of non-standard ports that come back. So there's 21212 over here, and this does not have a regular application that is associated with it. Same thing with this port over here. So 25251. So what we can do is we can do some scanning against these ports in particular. And this is how we're going to do it. So I'm just going to copy this number, and then we're going to go to another tab in here, and we're just going to run nmap against that port in particular. So the port is going to be this, and it's going to be T4, and the IP address is 10.65.176.2.1. We can also run the script equals, what was it, banner? Hold on, let me look that up real quick. So dash script equals banner. Okay, let's give that a go. Okay, so when we run that, it tells us that there is an FTP server that's being run on this port. So FTP is not usually associated with this port number, but you can put any service on any port number if you really want to. It's not necessarily a very good way of hiding the services because, well, I mean, people can use nmap to find out what's behind those particular ports anyways. So what they want us to do is they want us to interact with this FTP server. So we can interact with the FTP server by running this command. So we just run the FTP command to connect to the FTP server. So FTP is a file transfer protocol service, and we can use this service to upload and download files. So we connect to the service, and one of the things that we can check when we're checking FTP is we can check if there's anonymous access. So anonymous access means that we can access the service without a valid username and password. We just type in the word anonymous. Okay, and then we can take a look at what's on the FTP server, and we've got this tbfc QA key 1. This file over here, we can download it by using the get command. So get tbfc QA key 1, and that's going to download the file. So after that, we can exit out of the server, and we can see that we've collected this file here, and we can read it. So cat, and we've got the first part of the key, so Easter _. So we're just going to copy this, and we're just going to keep it someplace where we can remember to find it. So I'll just put in another tab over here and just paste it in. And the next thing we want to do is what? Okay, and let's see. So good job finding the first flag part. There's nothing more that we can see on the FTP server. So let's move on to the custom TBFC app on port 525251. Since it is not a well-known service like FTP or HTTP, let's see. So your FTP client won't know how to deal with that. Luckily, you can always use netcat, a universal tool for interacting with network services. So we can use the netcat command, and let me talk to you a little bit about what kind of service that we found on this port. Okay, so over here, we found that on port number 25251, we encountered an unknown service. But if we take a look over here and scan that service in particular with nmap, so what was that port number? It was 25251. 25251. Okay, and then we run the nmap script, and we see that there is a TBFC maintenance application over here that's running on this port. So if there's not a commonly known application we can use to interact with this particular service, we can use nmap to do it. We would just have to run our nmap command we can use netcat to interact with the service. 25251, and we'll just put netcat at the beginning of this. So what this program is going to do is it's going to try to interact with the service on port 25251 on this IP address. Okay, and we get this prompt over here. So TBFC maintenance daemon version 0.2, and we can type help to get the commands over here. So the commands are help, status, get key, and quit. So the goal of the exercise here is to get all three of the keys. So we can run this command over here called get key. Get key, and then we get the second part of the key. So this one over here, we'll just copy it, and then we'll put it over in our tab for safekeeping. So now we've got two parts of the key here. So Easter is the, okay, and what do they want us to do next? Okay, so congratulations on the second flag, but where do we look for the third one? Till now you've scanned only TCP ports, but there are also 65,000 some odd ports for UDP, another transport protocol, and there is a chance that HopSec secrets are hiding there too. You can switch to the UDP scan by specifying the SU flag. So we can use, by default, nmap scans TCP ports, but we can also specify UDP ports to be scanned as well. And this is how you do it. Okay, let's go over here. So we'll just run nmap, but we'll specify -su for UDP. And we need to specify a port to be scanned. So scanning UDP ports is a very, very slow process. So what we're going to do is we're going to cheat a little bit because we know what port we need to be scanning for. So the port that we need to be scanning for is port number 53. So when we run the scan, hold on. Oh, this is netcat. It should be nmap. Nmap port 53. Okay, so we see here the nmap scan is going to let us know that 53 is open on the UDP port, and it is the domain. So domain means DNS, so domain name service. And what we can do is we can query the domain name service for some information about a particular domain or web page. Okay, so how do we do that? Let's talk a little bit about it over here. So after a minute, you should find an open port 53 associated with DNS. So a protocol that drives the modern web by connecting domains to IPs, and many more. So DNS is a complex topic, and many secrets can hide here. But let's ask the DNS server if it knows the key by using the dig command to perform advanced DNS queries. So I don't know why they're giving us a something that we haven't encountered before, which is this domain over here. So key3.tbfc.local. You would not know about this particular domain unless they told you this. But since they're telling you this, we might as well use this command here to get the hidden key. Okay, let's go back and we'll paste in our command. So before we run the command, let's talk a little bit about what this command does. So what the command does is it queries this particular server right over here for a text entry. Text entry in DNS is just basically some information, and asking about this particular website right here. So key3.tbfc.local, and if there's some information, it'll give it to us. Okay, and see here that we got some information about this particular domain by querying this DNS server. And we found out that there is a text entry over here that is key number 3. So this is what we're looking for. So new Christmas, new Xmas. So we're just going to copy this. We're going to go over to the place where we put the other 2 keys, and now we've got the entire key. Easter is the new Xmas or Christmas. Okay, so what do we need to do next? So on host service discovery. So now that you've got all three keys to the TBFC dev QA01 QA server, it's time to call your TBFC teammates and kick out the bad bunnies. But first, log into the server's admin panel by visiting this IP address right over here for within the attack box, and access the secret admin console by submitting the combined keys. So this is how we're going to do it. So we're just going to copy our key because we're going to need to use it in just a sec. We're going to copy that, and then we're going to open up our Firefox browser inside the attack box. So the attack box has its own web browser, and we can use it to browse websites that only the attack box can get access to, like our IP address over here. Okay, and we're just going to click into here, and we're going to type in HTTP and then the IP address. So it's 10.65.176.21. Of course, your IP address is going to be different. Okay, so we got our web page here. So Eastmas takeover, and it says pwned by hopsec over here. And what we need to do is we need to get back into the server by providing the key. So I'm just going to click on enter key, and I'm going to paste in the key that we've been collecting here. Okay. Ooh, why did it go twice? Okay, so we paste in the key and then we click on unlock. Okay, so it says correct key terminal is now available. So we're just going to click on the terminal. But before we click on the terminal, we need to use this slogan over here as the answer for one of our questions. So let's go ahead and answer that question right now. PGNE, hello, nice to see you here, and thank you very much for following on Twitch. Hbren Trench. Hello, nice to see you here. Okay, so we'll just go down to the bottom so that we can answer the questions. What evil message do you see on the top half of the website? So we see here pwned by hopsec. We'll just plug that in, pwned by hopsec. Check that. And we've got the 3 parts of the key that we need to submit over here as answers as well. And let's see. So the first part is, hold on, let me just paste in the chat so that I can remember. Okay, I put it in the terminal here. Easter is the new something something. Hbren Trench says, nice to run into your channel. Welcome in, welcome in. So we're just answering some questions over here. We'll just go down to the bottom. Okay, so the first part is 3ASTR, like that. Okay, and the second one is the second part of the key. So 15 underscore the. So I think this part of it is it. So 15 underscore. Okay, and the third part is new Xmas. So new MN45. Okay, so let's continue now that we've answered those questions. We're going to go back to our web terminal here. Okay, so we need to go to the administrator terminal. PG&E asked, didn't you delete the Advent of Cyber 2025 from GitHub, the bonus missions? Yeah, we're not supposed to cover that stuff on, we're not supposed to cover that stuff until the event is over. So I'm not supposed to be recording that on GitHub. Okay, so here, what we can do is, this is a secret admin console. So what we have here is we have a web console that we can access from the web page, but it essentially lets us run commands like we're on the web server. So we can use all of our typical Linux commands. We can do ls, we can do pwd, we can ask who am I, and they want us to do some specific stuff. And let's find out what they want us to do on the console here. Okay, let's go back up. Okay, so once you have access to the console, there is no need to scan the ports. You can simply ask the OS to list its open ports, also called listening ports. Open ports, also called listening ports. You can run it. You can do it by running sstunlp or netstat on older systems inside the secret admin console on the web app. In the output, you'll see exactly the same services that you scanned before, listening on 0000, but also some listening on 127.001, which are available only from the host itself. So let's talk about this. CPU, hello, nice to see you here. Nice to see you. Okay, so we can go back here, and we can run the command that they asked us to run, which is the sstupln, and this will let us know. Let me see if I can make this a little smaller, because the interface is a little bit cramped. Okay, this will let us know what ports are being are listening, or open ports rather. So we've got a bunch of ports that we already knew about, which is stuff like 53 and port 80. And we also see some stuff that is running on localhost only, like port 8000 over here. And we also see that running locally is 7681. And this one, what we need to pay attention to here on 3306. So 3306 is a TCP port that's usually associated with the MySQL service. So that's an online database. ChromeWar asks, good night, good evening. What are we hacking tonight? So we're just doing some exercises from TryHackMe Advent of Cyber over here. Okay, so what they want us to do is they want us to access the database. Okay, let's see the database content by using the MySQL program. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to get a flag from the database service. So this is something new that I discovered just a couple of days ago. But sometimes, what happened here? Okay, we didn't scroll up to the top. Man, there's so much stuff going on. Okay, so within the a local system, you can just type in MySQL to access the server. And after you've accessed the server, for this last part, I need to view this machine in full screen because it's really hard to see otherwise. Okay, we'll put this in full screen. Okay, so now we're inside the database, and what we want to do is we want to find out what databases exist in the MySQL service. So show databases. Okay, we've got information schema, performance schema, and TBFCQA01. So this is probably what we want to access. So we want to use that database. So use TBFCQA01. Okay, and then we can list out the different tables in this database. So show tables. And there's only one table in this database here, so it's called flags. We can just dump out the flag by selecting select star from flags, and this is the last flag we need to collect for this room. So THM all services discovered. We're just going to copy this. Where is the copy button? Okay, copy. We're going to go back to the THM room. Okay, so which port was the MySQL database running on? So the typical port is 3306. And what is the final flag? So the final flag is over here. And the last thing we need to do is we need to click on this check button to finish the room. All right, everybody, this was a guided walkthrough for day number 7 from the Advent of Cyber 2025 event over at TryHackMe.com. So the room was called Network Discovery Santa Claus. If you enjoyed this guided walkthrough, please click on the like and subscribe buttons on the video and leave a comment underneath the video. But until next time, HackerFrogs out. All right, sorry for not getting back to chat. Let's catch up. Okay, CPU asks, have you finished any of the side quests? I didn't get a chance to finish the side quests. I did start the side quest, but wasn't able to finish it. So PGNE says, thank you so much. I didn't understand the command from TryHackMe for MySQL. So MySQL is a pretty big topic. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about how to use SQL, I would recommend the SQL Murder Mystery. It's a fun little game that teaches you about different SQL concepts. But anyways, we need to get to our next topic because we're a bit late. Let's go ahead and finish topic 1. We're doing topic 2 now, and topic 3 is on deck. Okay, side quest 1 is it's definitely not beginner friendly. Side quest 1 is not super beginner friendly. Okay, let's go ahead and call this one crossed off. Let's talk about what we're going to be doing in HackerFrogs AfterSchool, which is our training course. Hold on, where are we? So this is session number 5. Okay, let me put 60 minutes on the clock and then we'll get started. Hey everybody, this is HackerFrogs AfterSchool Network Hacking session number 5. So we've been doing a number of these different network hacking sessions, talking about different network hacking concepts, and let's cover what we were talking about in the previous workshop. So in the previous workshop, we were talking all about remote shell access. Remote shell, it's a command line interface. It's access to a remote server. So this allows OS commands to be run through the remote shell. So reverse shells are one type of shell access that we can get, and reverse shell access is where the listening port is created on the local host, and the connection is established by the remote host connecting to that port. So the reverse shells are having your attacker machine open up a port, and then the victim machine will connect back to your attacker machine to establish the reverse shell. Bind shells are the opposite. So when we're dealing with bind shells, as far as shell access is concerned, the victim machine will open up a port, and then the attacker machine will connect to that port. So in this session's topics, we're going to be talking about password cracking. So what is password cracking? We're going to be talking about the CrackStation website. We're going to be doing demonstrations on cracking a few different types of files. For example, zip files, Linux password hashes, and SSH private keys. So let's get started. So what is password cracking? So password cracking is the act of determining the plain text of a password hash by hashing a string and comparing it to the password hash. So I can give a very simple example over here. So if I echo out my password 123, and then I hash it by using MD5 sum, for example. MD5 sum. Then we get a password hash. So it's usually these kind of password hashes that are stored on web applications and databases. So the databases very rarely store passwords in their plain text form. They're usually hashed using some sort of algorithm first before they're stored, and they're stored. And the way that you log into the application is the database hashes whatever you put in, and it compares it against the password hash. If the password hashes match, then they let you log in. So that's the concept behind what we're trying to do today, password cracking. We start with a password hash, and we're trying to determine what the plain text of that password hash is. Okay, so if a plain text password is HackerFrogs, we can use MD5 hashing with that plain text, and if the resulting hash and the hashed password is the same, then we've cracked the password. So we've got a hash. We try comparing it against a bunch of different plain text values. If the hashes match, then we've cracked the hash. So is it like a Wi-Fi handshake? I don't think so. I don't think it's related to Wi-Fi handshakes, unless we're talking about authentication to Wi-Fi. Accessing TryHackMe. So let's access TryHackMe room to access and learn more about cracking password hashes. Okay, so we're going to be using this room right here. It's called Crack the Hash. We're not actually going to be using the materials from this room, but we're going to be using the room for the virtual machine. So if you've got an account over at TryHackMe, then you can access this room. So let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, so I'm just going to shut down my attack box because we're going to be using another attack box. Okay, so inside the room, you don't need to address the stuff that's actually in the room. We're just using this room because it's kind of related to what we're doing right here. Okay, so we're just going to start the attack box up here. So below the icon, there's a button labeled Start Attack Box. Go ahead and click on that. And that's going to start up our attack box that we're going to be using. So the other thing we're going to do is we're going to be setting up an environment to do our cracking stuff. And I'll tell you about what you're supposed to do when the time comes. But while we're waiting for our machine to load, let's talk about what we're doing here. So another thing that we can do when we're trying to do password cracking is we can use some common websites. So for example, there's this website right here called CrackStation. So CrackStation is a good website to use if you're dealing with insecure hashing methods such as MD5 and SHA-1. So you can access this website over here at crackstation.net. And if you're dealing with very insecure hashing methods or common passwords that we would have seen before, what we can do is we can enter the password hashes into here, and then we can use this website to crack those hashes. So for example, if we got password 123 with MD5, we can grab this, and I'll just give everybody the password hash if you want to try it out yourself. We can go over to CrackStation, paste in our password hash, click on I'm not a robot, and then click on crack hashes. Okay, so it says it's not found. Wow, that's a bit unexpected. I thought this would have been able to find it pretty easily. Hold on, let's try another password. Let's try password 123, but with capital P. Okay, let's try this one. CyberChef, I don't think CyberChef can be used to crack hashes, or at least I've never used it for that purpose before. Crack the hash. Huh, still wasn't able to find it. Let's try like a much simpler one. Let's just try the word password. Actually, you know what? When we echo these out, maybe what we should be doing is we should be doing -n so that we don't have the new line at the end of the hash, or at the end of the string. Okay, let's try this one. Okay, I'm not a robot. Ooh, they want us bridges, huh? That's a bridge. And that's a bridge. And that's a bridge. Okay, it was able to identify this one. So this is password 123. And let's try a few like really common passwords. So let's try I don't know. Admin. Let's try the admin password. So this is admin. Let's see if it works. Paste this one in. I'm not a robot. Oh, they want cars. That's a car. These are cars. I see a car in the background. Now they want buses. Okay, crack hashes. And yeah, it was able to crack this hash as well. So what's the -n for? So the -n is to make sure that there's no new line at the end of this string. So the difference between echoing admin with the -n and without the -n, well, we can't actually see it here, but there's a new line character, an invisible new line character if you use echo without the -n, and that affects output sometimes. But anyways, let's go back and let's talk about what we're doing next. Brazilian, these sites are just using a dictionary attack using brute force. Actually, that's not what they're doing. They're actually using rainbow tables. So rainbow tables are basically a bunch of discovered hashes. So for example, they discovered this hash that is associated with admin. They'll add that to a table. So they've got like a really big, it is kind of like a dictionary, but it's not really a brute force attack. It's just like a lookup attack. It's just looking up whether or not they've found this particular hash, and if they have, then it'll give you the plain text result. So it's called a rainbow table. Okay, let's continue. Okay, crack station, identifying hash types. So there's a couple of different ways to identify the type of hash being used. So there are CLI programs such as hash identifier and the hashes.com website. So if we go over to hashes.com, okay, so Abel says, were you able to identify any endpoint named collect.php in the bonus question on day 6 of Advent of Cyber? I was trying to solve that, not sure how to confirm this. Yeah, I got stuck on that one as well. But if anybody knows how to get that that particular, what is it called, endpoint, let us know how you got it. Okay, so here at hashes.com, we can try to identify hashes. So decrypt hashes. Free search. So free search, we can paste in a hash like this. And then we have to use do a captcha Q. Is that an O? Invalid captcha. What? M3MTQZ. Okay, so one hash was checked, one found, not found. So I was able to identify this hash over here. Unfortunately, it doesn't tell us what kind of hash it is. So that's kind of not great, but let's try the CLI tool. So the CLI tool we're talking about is called what? What is this room? Pretzel Pete, hello, nice to see you. Nice to see you here. We're currently doing this room over at TryHackMe, only we're not really using the stuff from the room. It's just kind of related to the stuff we're talking about. Okay, so we can use the hash identifier program as well. If you've got Kali Linux, you should be able to use it. I think you can also use it on the TryHackMe room. So inside the TryHackMe room, let's make this full screen. So we'll view this in full screen over here. Pretzel Pete, you just did this room, the hash cracking one, really? Wow. That's quite the coincidence. Okay, so hash identifier. Let's see if it's installed. So hash identifier not found. I just need to make sure that's the correct spelling. So it's hash dash identifier. Okay, let's give it a go. Yeah, I guess it's not installed on here. It's installed on Kali Linux. So hash identifier. Okay, then we paste in a hash, and then it should be able to, well, it'll try to identify it. So let's try password 123. And we'll see if hash identifier can identify this. Okay, we'll paste it in, and it guesses that this is MD5. So possible hashes is MD5 and some other stuff. So the thing is that a lot of hashes can look very, very similar. There's a lot of hashes out there that just use like a string of hexadecimal digits. And yeah, so it guesses that this one is MD5, and we'll try one more. So we'll try SHA-256 sum. We'll do the same thing, but we'll do it, we'll use a different hashing algorithm. Okay, so this is SHA-256 sum. Let's see if it's able to identify this. Paste it in. And it says possible hashes SHA-256 or havel-256. So it was able to get a pretty good bead on what kind of hashes we're looking at here. Okay, let's move on. So cracking zip file password hashes. Zip files are a pretty common file type that can be password protected. And we can use different programs like John the Ripper to determine what the original passwords were. So for this part of the demonstration, we're going to go over to this code. Amble443 says it's just breach blocker sandbox. It's the host name, then collect .php at the endpoint. Oh, really? Okay. You can visit that webpage, Breach Blocker Sandbox. That's interesting. Brazilian says, it's night here. Thanks for streaming such interesting topics. No worries, Brazilian. Thank you very much for coming by, and hope to see you again. Okay, so we're going to be using a custom script to set up the hash cracking files. So what you want to do is you want to copy the code below over here. So part 1. Click on this button to copy the code. Then you're going to go to your TryHackMe attack box. So in the attack box, you can paste in the code for the sh file. So you can call this sh file anything. We're just going to call this test.sh. Oh, we're going to edit it using nano. Okay, and then from here, you can paste in the code, and then you can save the file. So save modified buffer, yes. So after that, you should have a test.sh script in here. Dan Kiyako, hello, nice to see you here. Pretzel Pete asks, how old are you? HackerFrog, hello. Yeah, no worries. I'm 40. How am I holding again? I'm 45. So it's 2025. I'm 45. And yeah, I've been doing cybersecurity stuff for the last 5 years or so. Dan Kiyako, hello, nice to see you here. And Yusuf Wali asks, would there be any resources for hashes in bcrypt? I've got some hashes to test, used John and was not so lucky. Used John and was not so lucky. Bcrypt. I mean, I'm not super knowledgeable about hash cracking. I know the basics. Bcrypt in particular is kind of tough because Bcrypt is it takes a long time. It takes a long time to hash compared to other hashing algorithms. So that's where the problem comes in. Okay, so after we've created this file, we want to make this file executable. So chmod +x test.sh, and then we need to run the file. What's up next after this segment? So after this, we're doing CmdChallenge Linux exercises. Let's see. Pretzel Pete says use CyberChef. That's becoming kind of a meme at this point. Everybody says use CyberChef. Can you use CyberChef to crack bcrypt hashes? I don't think you can. Okay, what did you copy paste from GitHub? So over here on the GitHub for this workshop, under part 1, setting up the hash cracking files, copy the code below. So this is the code for the script file that we're going to be using. So you click on this button over here that copies the code. You go over to your attack box, and then you paste in the code into a file called something.sh. It doesn't necessarily need to be anything super specific, but this is a script that's going to create a bunch of files for us to crack. So after you've made the script executable, run the script, and then you will see that there are 3 new files for us to crack. So there's a zip file called zipcrack.zip. There is a password and shadow file that we can combine together to crack for Linux passwords, and there's also an RSA key, so an SSH private key that we can crack. Okay, let's catch up with chat. Denkiago says, let the JavaScript crack a hash. The JavaScript, I'm not sure if we're using any JavaScript specific stuff. And Abel, thank you very much for the sticker, for this super sticker. Thank you very much. And that's a great smiley face. You can see it on YouTube. Okay, so after that, we've got these 3 files, and we're going to be learning how to crack them. So the first one we're going to be taking a look at is the zip file. So zip files are pretty common. Let's talk about this. So zip files are a common file type that are password protected, and we can extract the hash and then crack the password using a tool like John the Ripper. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go back to our attack box here, and we're going to extract the hash. So usually there's a program that we can use called zip2john. I wonder, locate zip2john. So opt John zip2john. Okay, so we're just going to run this program right here. So opt /john /zip2john on zip.crack, and we're going to redirect the output of this command into a file called zip hash. Or how about zip.hash? Okay, so after we run that program, it's going to extract just the hash from the zip file. And we can take a look at it in here, zip.hash. And this is the hash for this particular zip file. Dinkyako says, I meant if you were trying to use CyberChef to crack a bcrypt hash, you'd be letting JavaScript do the work, which is far too inefficient. I mean, I've never. I guess so. If you're using like a web tool, it's using JavaScript, then that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I mean, I'm not. I don't think I've done like a bcrypt hash crack before. But thank you very much for following Fumo on Twitch. Thank you. So Ethereal, hello, nice to see you here. And let's give you a fun redeem. How about some Hack the Planet?
Hack the planet! Hack the planet! Shut up and get in.
Okay, so after we have our zip.hash file here, we can crack this file by using John the Ripper. So John the Ripper is a pretty common program for hash cracking. So John word list equals user share word lists rocku.txt. So the reason, so the word list we're using in this case is a very common list of passwords called rocku.txt. It's very commonly used in these kind of beginner level CTF challenges. So let me go to a new tab, user share word lists. So in cybersecurity distributions of Linux, they're usually in this directory. So user share word lists, and we've got rocku.txt. So rocku.txt is actually a list of 14 million different passwords. And it's a very common list to use when we're doing cracking attacks like this. So if we run word count on rocku.txt, why is it taking so long to do word count? It's a bit unusual. But anyways, yeah, it's just a list of like a lot of different passwords. So we can go back here and we can run John and we can give it a word list, which is rocku.txt, and we can run it on zip.hash. When we run this command, John the Ripper will try to compare the hash against all of the words in the rocku.txt word list. So it's able to crack this, and it gives you the plain text here. So the plain text is Star Wars. So this is the password that we can use to unzip this file. Okay, so we can just go into unzip, zip, crack.zip. It's going to ask you for the password. We know it's Star Wars. Oh, Star Wars? Yeah, okay. So we get from this a file called zipflag.txt, and we can take a look at it. And yeah, so we're able to complete this challenge. So that was zip files. We'll also take a look at a couple of other formats. If you have any questions about any of the stuff that we're doing, or if you're having some trouble, let us know in the chat. We'll try to solve your issues. Okay, so the next type of file that we're going to try to do some password cracking on is Linux password hashes. So Linux password hashes can be captured and cracked, and this technique is used in network CTF exercises. So in some network CTF exercises, you'll get access to both the, let's see. So here, so the etc password file is a list of all of the different users on the system. And the etc shadow file, and I'll show you the etc shadow file on this box. Cat etc shadow. This is a list of the different password hashes. So that we got some password hashes in here. So for these users, So the HackerFrog user, we've got the root user. The root user also has a password hash. And we could, if we can crack the password hashes, we can get access to these user accounts. So this is how we're going to do it. So if we've got these two files here, so password and shadow, so this is the entry for the HackerFrog user that we're trying to try to crack the password of, and this is the shadow file. What we need to do typically is we need to combine these two files into a file that is called the unshadow file. So typically we use unshadow. This is the name of the utility. So the utility needs to take in two different files, the password file and the shadow file. So we run unshadow with HackerFrog.password and then HackerFrog.shadow. And we're going to redirect this output into HackerFrog.unshadow. Okay, so after we do that, we see we've got a new file called HackerFrog.unshadow. Let's read that. Okay, and typically what we can do is we can pass off this unshadow file to John the Ripper to try to get the password. So we run John the Ripper again. Where is that command? Here. Only we're gonna swap out zip.hash and we're just gonna give it HackerFrog.unshadow. We run the command and it's going to try to crack the password. So we see that the password is Hollywood, and HackerFrog is we just added this user to the system, so we can actually log in as this user. So switch user HackerFrog. Oops. Well, normally we would have to put in a password to do that, but because we're running as the root user, we don't need to supply a password. But one command that we do need to supply a password for is sudo-l. And if we run sudo-l, we're going to have to supply a password. So let's use the password Hollywood. Okay, and we get this message, HackerFrog may not run sudo on this machine. That's fine, but we managed to steal this user's password by cracking it using John the Ripper. Okay, let's exit out of here. And there's one more type of password cracking that we're going to be doing today. So cracking SSH private key hashes. So this is, you're going to encounter this this technique a lot when you're doing easy CTF boxes, because easy CTF boxes love giving you private SSH keys that you need to crack the passphrase for. Another common file that can be cracked are the passphrases for SSH private keys, which allow users to log in. So this is how you do it. Whoops, we're not looking here, we're supposed to be looking here. Okay, so typically an SSH private key it's basically a file that you can use to log in instead of supplying a password when you're using the SSH program. In this case, a very typical name for these private keys is ID RSA. So if you take a look at the contents of this file, underscore. So the contents of the file are typically a very long string of base64 information. And what we can do is we can crack this. So the first thing we do is we extract the hash. We can extract the hash using a program that's specific to John the Ripper. I think it's called SSH to John. So let's locate it. Okay, it's located over here. So we're just going to run this Python script. And because it's a Python script, we need to run it with Python. So Python 3, maybe? Run this on the script SSH to John. run it on ID RSA, and redirect the output to SSH, we'll call it key.hash. Okay, and after we run that, we say that there's a new file called key.hash. If we take a look at the contents of that file, this is the hash. This is the hash that we're going to be passing off to John the Ripper to crack. Okay, so we're just going to run John the Ripper again. And we're going to run it on key.hash. Okay, we use the same word list we were using before, which is the rocky.txt word list. And detected hash type SSH, but the string is also recognized as SSH open CL. So this one takes a little bit longer to crack, but it will come back eventually. In the meantime, if there's any questions about password cracking that you have any, if you have any questions about password cracking, let us know in the chat. John the Ripper is not the only program that we can use for password cracking. It is a very old and very well-used program. The other major program is called Hashcat, and generally what you would do is you would look up something like, so Hashcat is the other very common program that people use for password cracking. So Ronan says, just found search that hash tool, looks useful. Search that hash. Is that a web app? Oh, it's a GitHub project. In Cali. Oh, really? Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Search. Search that hash. Not found. Is it something I can install? I mean, I see the GitHub project for it over here. Search and crack hashes. Ah, okay. Oh, STH. Oh, they've abbreviated it. STH. Nope, not this one. Okay, tired of going to every website to crack your hash? Search that hash automates the process in less than 2 seconds. 2 seconds, that's a very short amount of time. Okay, searches the most popular hash cracking websites and automatically inputs your hashes for cracking. Interesting. So no need to know the hash type. Search that hash uses name that hash to get accurate results for the type of hash. There's an offline mode. Oh, okay. So we can do that stuff with pip install. Yeah, I mean, we could probably install this using a virtual environment. So just for fun, I'll do a virtual environment over here. Oh, I need to look up every time I need to set up the virtual environment in Python. Hold on, everybody. Change the pip3 to pipx. I mean, maybe. So Python mv environment, my environment, and then run virtual env my environment. Then source bin activate. Oh, it's going to be in my env/bin activate. Okay, so now we're in a Python virtual environment. We can just pip install, what is it called? pip install search that hash. Okay, and that's going to install the program. So let's see, change the pip3 to pipx. Pipx uses its own environment for managing the packages. Yeah, I'll look into that a little bit later. I actually don't like installing new packages on Kali Linux because doing package management in Python is a bit of a nightmare. But yeah, we should be able to search that hash. Yeah, okay, we can run search that hash now. Let's give it a try. So let's get a hash. Let's do echo n admin in SHA 256 sum. Okay, so how are we supposed to run this? STH options. So STH help. STH text. So STH dash dash text. Paste in your thing. Nice, nice. It was able to identify it. Yeah, thank you very much for letting me know about this tool, Ronan. That's a great little tool. Thank you. But I wonder if we can run it on the different challenges we've got over here. So we've got a room called Crack the Hash, and we've got a bunch of different hashes that we can crack. And let's see if these work. So I'm just going to grab some of these. The bcrypt hash was created by PHP. Wonder if you could brute force using PHP. Yusuf Wally, hello, nice to see you here. If it's not finding, it's piping it to hashcat. If it's not finding it, it's piping it to hashcat. Really? Okay, so we got that one. That's an MD5 hash. We'll try plugging in the next couple of hashes here. So this one is supposed to be password 123. Yeah, we found it. That was SHA-1. This is a pretty cool tool. Let's try the next one. This one is supposed to be let me in. I'm not sure which format this is supposed to be, but we'll see if it can crack it. Wow, it does this like super fast. Okay, that was SHA-256. Let's try this next one. This next one seems to have some sort of salt. I don't know if it's going to be able to do this one. No types for this hash. Okay, let's try putting it between some single quotes instead. Bcrypt. Okay. Oh, this was bcrypt. So to the people who are wondering about bcrypt, you can try using this tool. I'll give you the link to the GitHub project. So this one over here is search that hash. So Ethereal, hey, what is up? Okay. Oh, we got an ad running on Twitch. Okay, so while ads run on Twitch, I'm going to take a little water break. So while the water break goes on, let me put on some music. And let me put on some birds. We'll be back in about 30 seconds. I just need to have a little bit of a water break. Okay, be back in a sec. Okay, let's get back to it. Whoa, music's getting a little bit intense. Let's turn it down a bit. Okay. So couldn't find it in any API. Search that hash automatically pipes your input into Hashcat. This seems like it would be a very, very nice all-in-one tool for doing hash cracking. That's pretty cool. Okay, let's try a couple more. So we managed to find this one. It said this one was bleh. Okay, and we'll try this one to see if it can identify this one too. One more time. Wow, it was able to do it super quick. Eternity 22. Let's give it a go. Okay, and then level 2. So these should be more difficult. All these answers will be in the classic RockU password list. Okay, let's give this one a try. Wow, it was able to find this one too. So Paul-lay. And okay, let's just skip to the end to see. And there's a salt. So how do we indicate the salt? So these ones are salted passwords. So salted passwords are generally more difficult to crack than unsalted passwords. Maybe they talk about it over here. So search that hash. Search that hash. Help. Crack a single hash, okay? But what happens if that hash has a salt in it? Ronan says this one uses Google Colab for pre-processes. I've seen them this method in one of the THM rooms. Colab search that hash. Really? I've also seen something called ColabCat, and I thought that was really fun too. Hashcat folder. Okay, so say we're using search that hash, right? Search that hash, salt. Search that hash. Let's see if they talk about this. Nope, doesn't say. How to find a salt for the hash if you have the plain text. Hack the Box Battleground had music, and Shulk Wise C. Hello, nice to see you. What is up? I feel nostalgic for those days. Hack the Box Battleground. I never participated in that. How can I identify the salt value used in a password hash? So let's say we want to, I'll just ask the AI real quick. Okay, I want to pass a hash and this salt to, I don't know, Hashcat or John the Ripper. What format should that take? I think you're supposed to provide the hash first and then the salt second, but I'm not too sure if you're supposed to use like a colon or something else to divide it up. You already gave it the salt. You can use the salt to decrypt the hash. Just call me Max. Max, hello, nice to see you here. Wait, Max, do I know you? Do we know each other somehow? Let me know if that's the case. Okay, so hash colon salt. Okay, so hash colon salt, so that's the format. Yes, I think so. Oh, okay. Do you happen to work do you happen to work for a really big company? Are you from Walls? From Walls? I don't know what Walls might be in this case. Maybe not. Okay, so let's try this out. So we'll try search that hash. We've got the salt and we've got the password. We'll see if we can actually crack the thing. Where is the... It's over here. Okay, so this is the hash. And then colon. The salt is TryHackMe. Okay, so text type unknown. So the result is unverified. Text is users Jeff R N. Well, let's see if this actually qualifies. Nope, this is not correct. HackerFrogs 1. So I guess it's not, it doesn't do everything automatically. You need to detect the hash algorithm first. So I mean, if we know that this is supposed to be HackerFrogs 1, how do we provide this to the program? So search that hash, help. Text file name. Just search for hash ID. Well, I mean, if we're using STH, this is a word list, location. Yeah, I don't see a place where we can plug in like a hash type. Isn't the format salt hash? Is it? We can try it the other way around. Yeah, I wasn't able to find anything like this. I mean, the AI tells us that it's supposed to be hash and then salt. Hash salt. Some modes expect salt and then hash, so I mean, I guess it varies. But hashcat's attack mode determines the expected order. So hashcat modes specify how to lay in the input, so... And it's SHA-465. On your machine, you can try to use hash ID. Ask you for the hash and will detect its type. So this is search that hash. The other tool that people talk about is, what's it called? Detect that hash, or is it something detected easy? Name that hash. That's the other tool. NTH. Okay, so NTH is name that hash, instantly name the type of any hash. Okay, so NTH text, I mean this looks kind of similar. So if we run name that hash, then plug in the hash we're supposed to be dealing with, which is here. example hashes and hashcat. Yeah. I just want to see if name that hash works here. So it says most likely SHA-1, hmax SHA-1, key equals salt. Okay, so I mean it is able to identify this thing, but this is able to get some text. Users Jeff something. How long is the answer supposed to be? So this is supposed to be how many characters long? It's like 15. Okay. So if it's supposed to be something like users Jeff R, like this. And then word count. This is 11 characters. Crackstation also does a lot of work, but I think it's better for you to crack the hash by yourself. I mean, I would really like to spend a lot of time to get better at hash cracking, but unfortunately, I don't have as much time as I'd like. But anyways, let's wrap up the room. The last thing we were supposed to be doing was we were supposed to be doing some hash cracking on IDRSA. So we were able to crack this one. So to get this this passphrase, it was Tweetybird, and this is the John the Ripper command you would use. Well, I mean, here's the thing: can we use Crackstation for ID? Well, I mean, we can't use Crackstation for everything. And I think Crackstation doesn't take in salted hashes. So up to 20 non-salted hashes, 1 per line. So if your hash is a salt, you can't use it. You can't use Crackstation. But otherwise, it's a pretty good tool. Okay, so we'll just wrap up the lesson here. So let's review the network hacking concepts we learned in this workshop. So what is password cracking? Password cracking is the act of determining the plain text of a password hash by hashing a string and comparing it to the password hash. So identifying hash types, a couple of different ways to identify the type of hash being used include the CLI program, hash identifier, and the hashes.com website. So I need to update this because it seems like tools like name that hash, otherwise known as NTH, these work much better. But these kind of tools are being developed. Well, new tools are being developed all the time. But let me get the GitHub for name that hash. It's by a different person. Here you go. Just drop any hash that I want to Crackstation. Have you been able to get salted hashes to work on Crackstation? Okay, so I think we can. So yeah, so zip files are a common file type that can be password protected. We can extract the hashes, then crack the password using tools like John the Ripper. Same thing with SSH private keys, which have passphrases. You can extract the hashes from those private keys and then crack them using programs like John the Ripper or Hashcat. So what's next? In the next HackerFrogs AfterSchool network hacking workshop, we'll be learning how to do online password brute forcing attacks. So there's a big difference between, let's get out of here. So there's a big difference between password cracking and password brute forcing. So first of all, password cracking is offline. You're not interacting with any particular online service while you're doing the password cracking. For password brute forcing, it is an online attack, which means it can get, there are many obstacles that can get in the way. We'll talk all about this when we're talking about the password brute forcing in the next workshop. So the next workshop is going to be on Wednesday. Today's Monday. Next one is on Wednesday. I only remember a long time ago from... Oh, okay. Hack the box and TryHackMe. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right, let's get out of here and let's move on to the next portion of today's stream. So let's stop the clock. And you know what? I need to record one more TryHackMe Advent of Cyber room. So let's go ahead and do that. If anybody wants to join along with us, this is it over here. After we're finished this, we'll move on to this challenge right here. It's called CmdChallenge. There's a lot of challenging stuff over here. It starts off really easy. It gets kind of tough later. But let's do this first. It's kind of I don't like this room, but I need to cover all the stuff at TryHackMe Advent of Cyber. Let's start. Okay, let me terminate this attack box. All right, everybody, this is a guided walkthrough for the prompt injection schedule conflict over at TryHackMe Advent of Cyber, day number 8 for 2025. So let's go ahead and start. So after you get into the room, you want to go down to task number 1, and there's a little storyline that's going on here. I'll be narrating the story, and then we can get started. And Shulk YC says, let's do Pwn or Rev. We will have a fun, hard time. Hey, yes. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to oblige you. I think we're doing a reverse engineering later on this week. So if you take a look at the schedule, yeah, we're doing reverse engineering challenges on Friday, as well as forensic stuff. But yeah, I think it's going to be mostly Linux reverse engineering stuff. But yeah, it'd be fun to have you around to talk about that stuff. All right, so let's go ahead and get into TryHackMe. Sir Breach Blocker III has corrupted the Christmas calendar AI agent in Wareville. Instead of showing the Christmas event, the calendar shows Easter, confusing people in Wareville. It seems that without McSkitty, the only way to restore order is to reset the calendar to its original Christmas state, but the AI agent is locked down with developer tokens. To help Wareville, you must counterattack and abuse the agent to reset the calendar back to Christmas. Learning objectives: understand how agentic AI works, recognize security risk from agent tools, and abuse an AI agent. So connect to the machine. What do we need to do today? Do we need to start the attack box today? Yes. Do we need to start a VM today? Yes. Okay, nice. I need to subscribe to your channel. Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. No worries, no worries. Okay, so let's go ahead and set up the virtual environment. So we can start the machine by clicking on this button, and we also need to start the attack box by clicking on this button over here. So we need to wait a little bit while the machine initializes, but in the meantime we can read all about what's going on in this challenge. So click on the task 1 question here, and then get into task number 2. Oh boy, AI stuff. Artificial intelligence has come a long way from chatbots that respond to one stimulus, to acting independently, planning, executing, and carrying out multi-step processes on their own. That's what we call agentic AI, or autonomous agents, which prompts us to shift the types of things that we can get AI to do for us and the nature of the risk that we must manage. But before we begin, let's take a moment to understand a few key concepts about large language models, or LLMs. Large language models are the basis of many current AI systems. They are trained on massive collections of text and code, which allows them to produce human-like answers, summaries, or even generate programs or stories. LLMs have restrictions that prevent them from going beyond their built-in abilities, which limits them. They cannot act outside of their text box, and their training only lasts up until a certain point in time. Because of this, they may invent facts, miss recent events, or fail at tasks that require real-world actions. Some of the main traits of LLMs are text generation. They predict the next word step by step to form complete responses. Stored knowledge. They hold a wide range of information from training data. And follow instructions. They can be tuned to follow prompts in ways closer to what people expect. Since LLMs mainly follow text patterns, they can be tricked. Common risks include prompt injection, jailbreaking, and data poisoning, where attackers shape prompts or data to force the model to produce unsafe or unintended results. These gaps in control
Hack the planet! Hack the planet! Shut up and get in the
Not every geek with a Commodore 64 can hack into NASA. I mean, these servers have more firewalls than the devil's bedroom. Not every geek with a Commodore 64 can hack into NASA. I mean, these servers have more firewalls than the devil's bedroom.
We're in.
Shall we play a game?
How about global thermonuclear war?